Welcome to my podcast. My name is Nichel Anderson. This is my podcast entitled Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond. This is episode 10, where it is titled Moment of Mitsrayim Final Say. So we turned back to the episodes last week. It was featured my director's clip, which was featuring episode 5 and episode 6. Please tune into that. Prior to that, starting on the 1st of the year, was the episode 8. In a moment, a new path is revealed. Just to touch on that, that's where we were back focusing on the 2. He was on the western part of Sudan, what we call Africa now. Pretty much on that particular episode, it just featured him finding out some more information about getting more, it seems like more supporters of their cause. So that was like right now about 2 weeks ago. Last week I did my director's clip and I was only talking about episode 5 and 6. So that particular episode that I'm talking about with Natu was considered episode 8. In a moment, a new path is revealed. And so with that one, pretty much we're still, of course, talking about some type of conflict with Mitsrayim that the Orions want to take control over. So I do encourage you to check that out. That was a clip as well. To get the full story, as I mentioned, kickoff of this new podcast, you will have to become a patron. This is considered premium content. So to get access to the full short story, you will have to become a patron. You can get that information and sign up at www.patreon.com. That's patron/Nichel Anderson. And the link will be in the description area of this episode for you to go and check that out and sign up and become a patron. You will get access to the short stories that have been released, that most of them pretty much are clip and snippets, and that going forward most of them will be. At times I will release maybe a full short story, but not all the time. So go ahead and, if you support it, go ahead and become a patron. You get access to all of the stories plus rewards based on your level. So here we return back from last week, where that episode, I'm just talking about the previous episodes, episode 5 and episode 6. So last week was my director's clip. That was episode 9. Now here we are going forward, returning back to the stories. And this particular episode is kicking off where we are showing another scene. I'm showing another scene where we left off when we finally get to hear King Milan and see the family reunited. Princess Hannah finally realizes and sees her father, and they spend a special moment. Then there's a new character that's on the scene. His name is Tesnar. It's only a few people, like I said, have been saying that knows about King Milan's status, where he's at. He's in a secret location in the palace. And so at that particular time, Tesnar did mention to Queen Hagar and King Milan that the Orions is there. Where this scene comes forward, in a sense, talking about the Mitsrayim final say. So she's making a statement to these Orions and other tribal leaders. It seems like it's very important because everybody seems to be there in this moment. So this is a good scene for you to tune into and to become a patron to get the full short story. This will be a clip. So as we continue the story of MOLIAE, which is ancient Egypt, pretty much Kemet, and it's from my book Mitsrayim, a memoir. Let's get started with this episode 10, entitled Moment of Mitsrayim Final Say. For my podcast, Nichel Anderson, Short Stories and Beyond. Let's get started. Opening scene. In the grand hall of the Veni room, it is Queen Hagar that stands in the center of 12 Mitsrayim elders of advisors and 30 royal esteemed guards of Mitsrayim. The elders of advisors are seated halfway around her as she is facing three different tribal leaders from the south of the Sudan, along with two High Council Orions military of the council members that were allowed to be in the Mitsrayim ruling room. They were only allowed to bring 5 of their military guards in the world governing hall of Vene in Mitsrayim. The golden doors were closed as fellow Mitsrayites out in the entrance of the palace received word that a final say of Mitsrayim stand was imminent by the queen. As the Orions arrived into Mitsrayim to hear the say, the final say of Mitsrayim, it was Hecate and Maran of the Orions present without the others, such as Natu, already assigned to a far region by their highest leader. Hecate and Maroon spoke up first as the meeting was designated to start by the queen nodding for Mitsrayim royal scribe to start writing forward. Hecate spoke first in Mitsrayim language before switching to Sumerian cuneiform. Heknatsama samana simu kunahalaka gananafuwa samanfaneo. Translation: Honor is thus here before Queen Hagar. Good thinkings to you and Mitsrayim Council. Queen Hagar responds in his language that surprised Hecate and Maran. Se nakom wasu ilafikin waduna befana mulafa ofit matsorin. Translation: Yes, in anew we will see your honor before Mitsrayim. Hecate and the rest of his group nods before the queen and wait for her next response. She starts to walk around, eyeing each of the Mitsrayim members of the High Council before returning back to face Hecate. Queen Hagar stares at Hecate for a long moment that made him slightly uncomfortable as he looked briefly away from the queen. She then looked at the tribal leaders in seconds, but not long enough to send them a visual message of her distrust of them. She nods to the royal scribe only a few feet away. Queen Hagar speaks in Sumerian cuneiform language for all those that know in the room what is about to be said and to continue in a secret communion. Bufanu nafa nasau pawale na kuwaninata afamo witsam nafeye kunukusawali besana alatanasana ekena hafai kusola sete afinlin konkinia salanawa tulana ona efeturindatesa. Translation: By the power of the crown of Mitsrayim, I declare no treaty with the southern region. We stand at front of a one territory and will push back those that proceed. No deal. We offer the Lin Concrete region in trade. The tribal leaders and Orions were disruptive and started talking at once in disagreement to the queen. The royal guard started to move in closer as the Mitsrayim elders stood to protect the queen. Tesna was first to start to get up and walk over to Queen Hagar, but Hagar held up her hand, and for some reason all in the royal room ceased talking. Queen Hagar kept her eye on the Orions and the tribal leaders, as her hand was still raised before them, and then lowered it in a royal position. She stood. In Sumerian cuneiform language, she responds to the disorder response. Tafa, Kuna Allah Hasat, Spadanata Vanta, Sephonat Spechonata, Vola Mitzra, Savafuna Sayat, Nohom, Ela la sola, Sapela, Siam ala. Sol sefe ala hewita asa. Chajnadala wasa enunara. Nari suma ele. Translation. The Queen has spoken of this matter. No more speech of it, for it is Mitsrayim final say. Let your superiors hear it as such. Choose wisely. Hectic was fuming, but was wise not to alert everyone in the royal hall of his disagreement with the Queen. He could feel Queen Hagar already knew his disapproval. He speaks in the language of Sumerian cuneiform. Eka, Rakun, Kwanakina, Nofosea. Translation. We ask of the Queen to rethink such a move. Queen Hagar seemed to pierce into his eyes before responding in his language. Naru. Translation. No. Queen Hagar turns to look at the elders that were bowing before her. She motioned then to the royal Mitsrayim scribe to conclude the writing concerning the gathering meeting before she starts to leave. 10 royal guards behind her, and 4 of the elders of Mitsrayim royal advisor councils followed her out of the royal room. Immediately, some of the royal guards and 2 elders of Mitsrayim quickly started to show the Orions and the tribal leaders out of the royal Veni hall. The Orions were not happy by one of the elders overhearing what seemed like Maran saying to Hecate, "Where is King Milan? Should we ask to speak to the king or his elders of the council?" But was quickly hushed into silence by Hecate as they followed the escort out of the grand palace hall of Mitsrayim governing. End scene. So thank you for tuning in this week to my podcast, Nichel Anderson, Short Stories and Beyond. So long.